Okay, pull out your study guide from last time, and I think most of you guys handed them in. So you need to have the sub pass them back to you. They're in my folder. I don't know what that thing's called. The box above my filing cabinet, 3B, where I pass back all your homeworks, or they're sitting in that tray. So if she hasn't passed it back, make sure you get them back from her, and then flip it over to the back where you got some blank space. So factoring today, we're going to do some more factoring. So flip it over to the back. Okay, now today we're going to factor your special cases. Your special cases, there's 3 of them. So there's 3 types that are very special. So let's review them real quick. And some of you, not very many of you, are using the shortcut. Most of you are working them out the long way, which is okay. But type number 1, if we have like 4x plus 7 squared, type number 2 would be like a 4x minus 7 squared, and then type 3 would be if you have one of each, a 4x plus 7 and then 4x minus 7. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work them out the long way and then show you how the shortcut works. So 4x plus 7 squared has got to be 4x plus 7 times itself, 4x plus 7, and then you start distributing 4x times 4x, that's going to be 16x squared, and then you do 4x times 7, and that's a 28x, and then you do 7 times 4x, and that's another 28x, then you do 7 times 7, and that is 49, and then you can add these 2 terms in the middle because they're like terms, so you end up with 16x squared plus 56x plus 49. Okay, your middle, 4x minus 7 times itself is 4x minus 7 times 4x minus 7. So 4x times 4x is 16x squared. 4x times a minus 7 is minus 28x. And then a minus 7 times 4x is another minus 28x. Then a minus 7 times a minus 7 is a positive 49. Same thing, you add up your middle terms, so your answers are almost the same. 16x squared, negative 28, negative 20 is going to be a negative 56. And then your last is a positive 49, because a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, now the last one, if you have one of each, 4x times 4x is going to be 16x squared. Then 4x times a minus 7 is a minus 28x. And then 7 times 4x is a plus 28x. Then a 7 times a minus 7 is a minus 49. Okay, now this time, your like terms, when you add them up, they're opposites. One's negative, one's positive, so you get 0. They zero each other out. So your answer is just 16x squared minus 49. Okay, now here's the shortcut. If you want to do them in your head without using any of the work, you got to follow this shortcut. So first of all, you got to recognize it's one of these 3 types. It's either the exact same thing times itself, where you're adding, or you're minusing, or it's the exact same thing but one of them is a add and one of them is a minus. So there's only 3 things you need to recognize. Okay, now here's how you do the shortcut. So this first one, if it is that times itself and you're adding, you take, your answer is going to be a trinomial. It's going to be 3 terms, and the first one is whatever that is times itself. So 4x times 4x, and it's going to be 16x squared. And the last is going to be that times itself, 7 times 7, which is going to be 49. So the first and the last are easy to get. It's the middle. The middle, you times these together. So you do 4x times 7, which is 28x, and you double it. there's going to be 2 of them. So you double it, so it's going to be 56x, and everything is plus. Okay, and it's the same with minus. Your first term is going to be that times itself. 4x times 4x is 16x squared. Your last is going to be that times itself. Minus 7 times minus 7 is positive 49. Your middle is going to be times them together. So 4x times a negative 7, that's a negative 28x. And then you just double it, because there's going to be 2 of them. So it's going to be negative 56x. Okay, and this last one, if you got 1 plus and 1 minus, you can just remember these middle terms are going to always zero out. So it's just the first times the first, 4x times 4x, that's 16x squared. And your last times your last, but it's a plus 7 times a minus 7. And that's always going to be a negative, because positive times a negative is going to be negative. Okay, so let's try 3 of them. Let's try 5x plus 3 squared. Let's try 6x minus 4 squared. And then let's try 2x plus 3 times 2x minus 3. Okay, so go ahead and hit pause. See if you can get these 3. Try them in your head without any work. And then push play to check your answers. Okay, the first one, 5x plus 3 squared, so it's that thing times itself. So it's one of the 3 special cases, so I'm going to do 5x times 5x, and that's going to be 25x squared. Now my last piece is going to be 3 times 3, and that's 9. Okay, the middle is going to be 5x times 3, so that's going to be 15x, but then you got to double it, because there's going to be 2 of them, so it's going to be 30x. Okay, the middle one is going to be the first, 6x times 6x, that's 36x squared. The last, minus 4 times minus 4 is plus 16. The middle times them together, that's a minus 24x. Double it, so it's going to be minus 48x. Okay, the last one, 2x times 2x is 4x squared. My last is a minus 3 times a plus 3, so it's a minus 9. And my middles are going to zero out, because it's the exact same thing. One's plus, one's minus, so that's my answer. Okay, now we're going to go backwards. We're going to factor them. I'm going to give you these products, and you're going to have to give me the special factors. So here's what you got to recognize, and here's all you look for. When you see these products, if the very first and the very last are perfect squares, then that is a hint that it is a special case. So the very first and the very last, if they're perfect squares, then it's going to be really easy. Very first, very last, if they're perfect squares, then it's going to be easy. So your perfect squares, here's what you're looking for. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, 13 times 13 is 106, no, 11 times 11 is 121, 12 times 12 is 144, 13 times 13 is 169, and that's probably, if you know the first 13, you're good. So these are the perfect squares you're going to be hunting. So let me give you 3 problems. If I give you I can fit 2 in here. Okay, let's look at these 2. Okay, now if you're asked to factor them, so this is the product, you got to work backwards and give me the factors. You look at it, but as soon as you see that it starts with the 16 and it ends with the 25, that's going to be a special case, so it's really not going to be too bad. Ignore this whole middle. Okay, how did they get 16a squared? They get that from 4a times 4a. And how do they get the 25? They get that from 5 and 5. And everything's positive, so it's got to be plus plus. And that is the same thing as 4a plus 5 squared. Okay, now here's how they get the 40. Because if you do the 4a times 5, that's 20a, and if you do 5 times 4a, that's another 20a. So 20a and 20a is 40a. Okay, this one, you've got to see that it starts with a perfect square and it ends with a perfect square. So that's a special case. If it is a special case, how do they get the 9x squared? They get that from 3x and 3x. And how do they get the minus 16? One's got to be plus 4, one's got to be minus 4. And there is no middle because they zeroed out. Because your middle, you're going to have a minus 12x and a plus 12x, and those will zero out. Okay, two more and we'll call it good. What if you have like a 16x squared minus 40x plus 25? So it's kind of close to what we just did. Let's do 25x squared minus 40x plus 16. Okay, now, so look at it and you see the first is a perfect square, the last is a perfect square, so here we go. They're going to be special case. 16x squared they get from 4x and 4x. 25 they get from 5 and 5, but they're minuses. Because a minus 5 times a minus 5 is a positive 25. I know they're minuses because the middle adds to be a minus 40. So the middle, that is going to be a minus 20x, and that is a minus 20x, so that's a minus 40x. So you can write it as 4x minus 5 squared. Okay, now this one, you see that it starts and ends with a perfect square, so it's going to be a special case. So how they get the 25x squared is 5x and 5x. How they get the 16 is 4 and 4, but they're not pluses. You look at the middle. The middle's minus, so they got to be minuses. Okay, so try factoring special cases. You got a worksheet with 20 of them. They're all special. They all start with the perfect square and end with the perfect square. When you're done with that, do all your IXLs. They're all written on the board. Start working on them. They're all due October 21st, so I'll give you over the break to get them all done. Get them all done to 90%. That's an A. If you get anything over 90 to 100, that's extra credit. So you guys with your grades that are not good, get them all to 100 so you get some extra credit. And that should be it. We'll see you Wednesday.